Hey, it's Cindy. Ooh, tickle in the throat. Hey, it's Cindy here, and I have a couple stories that I always wanted to share with you. But first thing I want to share with you is the last time I spoke with y'all. I was telling you about some different ministries people are involved in and ways they share their talents. And my one friend made me this beautiful shawl with the flamingo on it. So, of course, anything with flamingos on it, I'm always going to love. But I love this even more because this was specially made just for me. And it's literally a shawl. And it's just so cute. I can't put it on great right now because I've got this wire hanging on me. But I'm going to put it aside just in case my puppy dogs decide they want to try to crawl on my lap again. I was wanting to share something a little different today. And it's not so much about me as it is about people who have different issues. It's so hard to know the PC term anymore. Like, some people have trouble with the word disability and definitely have the problems with the word handicap, which I don't care. Or impairments or whatever term you want to use. Some people will say differently abled or whatever. I don't care about that. But basically, I just want to kind of share with you for those who are able-bodied. If you feel like you want to help somebody, if you see somebody who has a need and you feel awkward in helping them, you're not the only one who feels like that. It's just as awkward for us disabled people to ask for help as it is for you to offer help. And you would think that it wouldn't be that way, but voila, that's the way it is. First of all, I'm in my PJs. It's not dark yet, but that's the thing about once spring hits, it kind of throws you off when it's 8 o'clock at night and it's still light outside. Not complaining, because I love the sunshine, I love the warmth. I don't like it whenever it gets dark at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's depressing. But anyway, so before I go on to my little input, I want to share you a story. If you remember the Aesop's Fables, where you would hear the story and it would say, the moral of the story is, well, my little fable for you is about a conversation I had with a gentleman who was completely blind. And he and I were talking about, and it was funny because this was a party a friend had for me when I was losing my vision, when I was turning 21. And she threw this party for me, and it was supposed to be my 21st birthday, but it was also Cindy's going blind party, which you would think is not nice, but I thought was hilarious. So it was fun. But this gentleman and I were talking, and he's married to a friend of mine from college, and he was working for the Commission for the Blind, I believe. And he was kind of giving me some insight, on different things that would occur with people who have, good vision, and how they treat people who don't have good vision. Some different stories that he was sharing with me, and it was so funny because the friends at the party were like, I think they're making fun of sighted people, and yeah, we were. And the reason why he was sharing this with me is because he knew I was probably going to run into this kind of thing as well. I had gone through the Commission for the Blind, so I had been learning how to use... No, I hadn't gone through... No, never mind. I hadn't gone through the Commission for the Blind yet. So I was getting ready to have surgery. And the surgeons knew that I would be laid up for several months. And so they wanted me to go ahead and have my birthday party, and that way I could focus on, healing. So anyway, back to the story. So he was telling me, and I don't remember his name. I think it was Steve. And so we'll say Steve. So Steve said, him being totally blind, he was living, downtown Columbia. And one of the things that, as a visually impaired person, you try to maintain as much independence as possible. And one of the wonderful things about living in a city like Columbia is you have the buses. And so he had this route he would take to get to work. And so he was at the corner waiting on the bus. And this Good Samaritan comes up, grabs him by the arm, says, "Here, I'll help you," and basically drags him across the street. Downtown Columbia, okay? Drags him across the street, places him on the corner and says, "Okay, you're safe, bye," and then takes off. And so here's Steve on a totally wrong side of the street. And so he has to get back across the street, not just get back across the street, but get back in time to get his bus to get to work. So he told me he made it just in time. And that was one of the things that he was saying, people who have good intentions don't always have good results. But he's like, that's just part of dealing with people without impairments. They want to help, but sometimes they're not equipped to help you in the way that you need help. But if you want the moral of the story, I think most people with any kind of physical disability would say the same thing. If you want to help somebody, always, 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 always be sure to ask first. Don't just assume anything. Don't even assume that they need help, because the one thing with people with certain impairments is they have a certain way that they deal with their particular impairment. And unless you're a physical therapist or occupational therapist or a nurse or whatever, you're not going to always know how to help the person with this particular issue. As somebody who was visually impaired for a while, I went a whole year of not being able to see. And, one of the things that people were famous for, if they knew that I was blind, they would come up and they would raise their voice very loudly, kind of like, "Hey, do you know who I am?" Okay, I'm not deaf, I'm blind. But even with deaf people, you shouldn't sit there and yell in their ears, because that doesn't do anything. That just gives everybody a headache. But anyway, with somebody who's visually impaired, yelling is not going to help them identify you. I always appreciate the people who would go, "Hey, I'm such and such." And then carry on the conversation there, just to make sure that they know that you're able to communicate, that you have a familiarity. But with people who have vision issues, you never grab them by their arm, first of all. If you think that they might need help, you ask. And then if they say yes, then you say, "How? How do I help you? How is the best way to do whatever this particular need is?" I always liked being able to touch the shoulder of the person who's assisting me, and that way I could not kind of feel the rise and lowering of their body as they're walking. And then you communicate with them and you say, "Hey, there's a step here. Hey, there's an incline here. Hey, there's a banister here." Because most of us who have any kind of physical disability, we like stable foundations to hang on to. Communication, first of all. Asking, mainly, ask, and then ask how. And then if they say no, then that's okay. They have a system, they have a way that they deal with it, or they're familiar with their surroundings and they have their way. They have a certain way that they do things. Um, when you interject yourself into someone else's routine, you actually can kind of throw them off. Um, when you have somebody who has a hearing impairment or a visual impairment, they're trying to use all their other senses to get the information they need to ground themselves in their surroundings. There's a lot going on around us whenever we have an impairment. We're trying to pick up on all these other different senses. And then if you're in their face, they're not able to absorb what else is going on. So, and really, unless you've gone through it, you're not going to understand. And that's okay. You know, we're not going to be mad at you because you don't understand. We will get upset with you if you assume. And if you just jump in and think that you know better and that you're more human than us. And this might not be you, but it is how other people treat people with a disability. Number one, we don't want pity. We don't want you feeling sorry for us. We don't want you thinking that we're your heroes. We appreciate where you're coming from, but we're just human beings. We're just trying to get through our day. We're just trying to get from A to B, from B to C. We're sometimes we're so focused on trying to get someplace safely that we may act like we're not accepting of you. That's not what it is. What it is we're focusing. We're transitioning. So like I said, number one, you ask. Then number two, you ask how. And I think that goes with any kind of disability, not just vision, but with people who are hearing impaired. Number one, don't be yelling in their face. You might need to find out if there's like a certain side that they prefer for them to hear you. But most of the time when somebody has a hearing disability, they just need to see your mouth moving, and you don't need to yell. You just need to make sure that they're looking at your face. And your expression is part of the conversation. If you ever know somebody speaking in sign language, their face is part of the conversation. You don't sit there and saying you're happy, then you're frowning while you're trying to display happiness. If you ever watch my interpretive movement team, that's one of the things that I try to share with them is like, if you're talking about the joy of the Lord, don't look like you're a deer in headlights, which takes a while for them to learn. But anyway, and then in my particular situation, being in a wheelchair, I do get people asking me a lot if I need some help. And I'm going to probably say no most of the time, but there are occasions where I have had to say yes. And in my particular situation, I have what you would say are good days, and then I have bad days. And there may be good days where I'm transferring from my chair to my wheelchair without any problems. But some days I'm going to be a little more unstable. Some days it's going to take me a little more time. The main thing to do with somebody who has any kind of physical disability is to not rush them. Especially if somebody has a cane or a walker. It's like people want to be nice and let me go ahead of them, but see, I know I'm going to slow you down by getting ahead of you. So most of the time I'm going to be like, go ahead, because if I go ahead of you, then I'm going to feel rushed. And you're not trying to rush me. I know that. But I'm going to feel rushed anyway, because I don't want to be rude. I don't want to impair you from getting to where you need to go or from what your day is going to be. Everybody's kind of in a hurry anyway. I mean, just drive on the roads in South Carolina and you'll see a lot of people in a hurry. And I'll usually wait, like if there's a buffet, I usually wait for the line to kind of simmer down a little bit because I don't want to feel rushed. and I don't want to infringe on the other 50 people who are trying to get through. And I appreciate when people say, can I help you? And I'm not trying to discourage you from that, because somebody else might really need you to help them, and I don't want me to be the one to say, oh, don't try to help somebody. No. Ask, but don't feel insulted when they say, no, thank you. I'll get it. I got it. And or go ahead. I'm going to lag behind because I want to take my time. And plus, being in a wheelchair, sometimes you might need to watch out for your toes, because I have run over toes before. Don't mean to, but you're talking to someone who's also visually disabled driving a wheelchair, and that wheelchair is heavy. But anyway, so in my particular situation, if I do ask for help, it's usually something as simple as, hey, can you hold that chair stable so that I can use it to prop myself on, so that I can get from one location to the next, and have a more stable place to kind of put my weight on. And sometimes I drop stuff, and so I'll need help getting something, because it's hard for me to bend over to pick something up, because now my balance is off even more. So yeah, but with any kind of physical disability, anytime you want to help somebody, always ask first. There's also this issue that we have as somebody with a physical issue, that that pride does become part of our daily meme. We know that so much of our independence has been lost because of whatever, if it's vision, hearing, or physical need. There's so much that we've lost, so much of ourselves. If this is a new situation, and we've been autonomous for so long, then all of a sudden, in my case it's not all of a sudden, but for some people, if now all of a sudden they're relying on everybody else to do all their day-to-day life needs, it's hard, and there's a certain sense of pride and embarrassment that goes along with having whatever. And not only are you needing to be in tune with whatever their physical disability is, you're also needing to be in touch with their mental, I wouldn't say a disability, but their mental awareness. How are they coping? How are they dealing with it? Me personally, just like everything else, I have my good days and I have my bad days. I have certain days where I'm like, I'm not depressed, but I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm mentally, spiritually, physically tired, and I just don't want to deal. And usually it's a 1 or 2 day thing. And then I'm like, okay, this pity party is getting lonely with only me at the party. I want to get back out there and I want to live my life. And the thing too is, like, I don't know that there's going to be a day, but there may be a day where I can't do anything. I've worked in the medical administration field, and I worked as a home health person, and I've worked with people who have anything from Alzheimer's, dementia, and cerebral palsy, and I've had a client that had multiple sclerosis, and this was back early 90s before all this medication came out, and they were pretty much bedbound, and this particular client was, and they also had to have a trach because they were choking on their food. They couldn't chew their food and swallow their food. So the wife was having to puree everything. Hey, baby. Was having to puree everything and give him his food that way, and having to flip him every 3 hours, and so on and so forth. So there was a lot, And I went to this client's house and I saw, how MS could turn out. Now, it's not always going to be that way. MS is different for everybody. In my particular situation, it affects my left side. My left leg, I can't pick up my left leg. I can pick up my right leg, I just can't pick up my left leg. My left arm is starting to be affected a little bit, and it gets tired real easy, and I have to adapt. And that's all it is learning to adapt and learning to say, hey, I can't get this open, can you open this for me? Or I'm not going to be able to do stuff with my left side, I need to place it to my right side. So I have a system that I've done of certain ways that I do it, and when somebody else comes in and just jumps in and starts taking over and like, oh, she needs to move her legs into the car. Well, okay, no, because I have a certain way that I get into the car, because if I get in it wrong, I'm going to hurt my waist as well, because I have to turn my hip, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So, and that's just my particular situation. And I don't expect everybody to know that. I'm just telling you this because it's, like I said, it's different for everybody. Everybody has special needs. If you want to help somebody, you ask first, then you say, how can I help you? What do you need me to do? And most of my friends know to just kind of sit back and wait for me to say, hey, can you hold your hand out while I do this? While I reshift myself or whatever the case may be. Even my interpretive movement kids, they'll just stand in front of me like, what do you need me to do? Hey, can you put this away from me? Okay. And they do it. And then they get into a routine where they know I don't even have to ask anymore. They just do it because they know this is what I have difficulty with. And I don't have to continually explain to them, hey, I have trouble with this particular job. Can you take care of this for me? And they just do it. And but most of them have been with me for a long time, so they know the routine. If you're with somebody on a regular basis and you know that they have particular issues, then you say, hey, I'm with you a lot. What are some things, make it plural, what are some things that I can do to make your life easier so I don't have to keep on asking you? And they'll give you a mission. And it could be something as simple as, hey, can you go fill this cup with ice? Okay, believe me, that little thing helps right there. I have this one child that came up and asked to help me one time. I don't even know the kid. He just says, do you need anything? And I'm like, hey, yeah, can you, my cup is, I just spilled my water like outside. Can you fill this up with water for me? Sure. And he filled it up and brought it back to me. Didn't even know the kid, but you could just tell that this was a child whose parents taught him to be attentive and kind. To be honest with you, most of the time it's the kids that pay attention and help me more than the adults do. But I think it's because they're more my level when I'm in the wheelchair, so they see what's going on. Most of the time with people who are not in wheelchairs and who are 5'10" and 6 feet tall, they don't see me, and that becomes an issue. And then if you're at church and you happen to want to help me, just make sure people aren't blocking the doors so that I can get in and out the doors without trying, because it's hard when I'm down here and you're up there. I don't want to sit there and yell for people to move out of my way. I mean, that's rude. And I don't want to squeeze through because, again, I worry about running over people's toes, especially the ladies with those beautiful sandals and high heels. I don't want to hurt anybody. I want to be able to keep going back to church. Or, the store. I mean, a lot of the stores in our neighborhood do not have automatic doors. And sometimes my husband's either doing an errand or going somewhere or finishing up at the register, and I'm trying to get to a different location ahead, and I'm sitting here waiting for the door to just some wonderful person to come and open the door for me. And, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. It all works out. But anyway, but I think that's the thing that I was wanting to share today with you guys was, if you feel the urge to help somebody, don't not do it because you don't want to embarrass them or embarrass yourself. If you're feeling called to help somebody, then ask them and ask them how. And then if you have questions about somebody's impairment, most of us who have an issue are glad to share. I have little kids come up to me all the time and like, well, why are you in a walker? Why do you have your cane? Then now it's, why are you in the wheelchair? And then I had one kid asked me if I was in a go-kart, because he was impressed with my, my automatic chair, my battery operated chair. He just thought it was cool. And it is, because I have ability to do a lot of stuff I couldn't do before. And I appreciate being able to do that. And with children, I'll just say, oh, my leg doesn't work very well, so this helps me be able to get around. And the parents get upset because they think that the child is embarrassing me. But most of us are like, no, we don't mind telling. We don't want the children to be scared of somebody with an impairment. And they're curious. And they should be curious. Sometimes adults need to learn a little bit from the children. And it's all in the way that you ask too. It's not like you don't go, what's wrong with you? That's not how you do it. Most of the time it's like, well, if you don't mind me asking, exactly what's your situation. I mean, I have to ask people that kind of question all the time, because I'm building, I'm building a relationship with certain people, and I'm like, okay, I can tell that they have a certain need, and I can talk, I can speak to them on my level as far as what my needs are. I can understand what they're going through, I guess I'm saying. So again, the moral of the story is, don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to ask. It's all a part of us being the hands and feet of God. Some of us have feet that don't work, and if you can, help me in that arena sometimes, then voila, it's all good. It's what we're called to be. And some people are, like I said, some people are afraid to ask to help, and some people are afraid to ask for help. And we all have our different reasons. Like I said, sometimes I know some people are afraid because they don't want to seem, they don't want to be embarrassed and be less of a person because they have to ask for help. And some of us are just like, I don't want to inconvenience somebody. I don't want to put them out and make them feel like they have to help me. And I know most of you don't feel like you're being infringed upon, but we always feel like we're infringing on somebody when we have to ask for help, and we don't want to put you out. And I hate asking my son to help me do stuff, or to help me with certain chores where, like if his dad's working, I'll call him and say, okay, I need a ride. And he has his life too, but he says he doesn't mind helping me, and and I appreciate it so much. And then when somebody else is offering, I had a friend who took me to Alaska, and she had a whole week of taking care of me, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Kimma. And somebody walk into the bathroom with me so that I can get into the bathroom door. Because just because something says it's handicap accessible does not mean it's handicap accessible. This is a hard subject to talk about for some people because you don't know, and you feel bad because you want to help, and then you feel bad because he didn't offer you help. Did I say that right? And then again, we feel bad because we're putting people out, or we feel bad because we were so independent for so long, and now we're having to ask for help, and it's hard. It's hard. You know what? Life is hard. Being human is hard, and the one of the things that happened to me when I first started walking with a cane was this lady came up to me and was like, "Oh, you just need to get rid of that cane because God wants you to just throw that cane away and lean on Him, and you could walk because if you believe in Him, He's gonna make you walk again." Guess what? Not a good conversation to have with somebody who, first of all, you don't know, and second of all, you don't know their walk. And sometimes I think that God has allowed me to go through my certain issues because He's going to use me the way that I am now, just like He used them. I'm being pushed around by my dog. Just like He used Paul with whatever his infirmities were. I look at that story about Paul having been blind, and then having the different whatever impairments he had, and asking God to remove the thorns, and then God said, well, God didn't say, He just didn't remove it. I think God can sometimes use us in our infirmities, and and then again, just as Paul said, in my weakness He is strong. And when I need to rely on other people, I'm giving them that ability to share Christ with me, just as I want to share Christ with others. And the dogs are going to start barking now. So I'm going to end this. I think I did what I was wanting to do, and kind of sharing you my perspective of being impaired or handicapped or disability, whatever word you want to use. I don't care. My thing is, I'm not so much worried about what the terminology is. I think I'm more into wanting to be sure that people feel comfortable in being the Christians that they want to be. Don't ever be embarrassed that you wanted to help somebody and they said no. Don't take it wrong if somebody says no. Is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, and that comes down to my little ending is be a blessing and be blessed, because you never know by reaching out to somebody what kind of impact you're going to have on them. And just doing it with a smile. If they say no, you just smile and like, okay, I just wanted to check, and we appreciate it. But then again, the day may come where we say yes. And there's been times where I've said yes that I ended up making a really good friend. And and I know that was something God has allowed me to have those relationships with people who love and care about me, and who are there for me when I need them, and I always appreciate all of them. And just be aware of how God can use you, no matter what your circumstances are, and be blessed and be a blessing. And I hope I will hear from you all. If you feel led to like or make a comment, please do, because it just, like I said, it tells me that I'm talking to somebody besides my puppies, and because they're sitting here wanting my attention right now. So I will let you go, and hopefully I will get around to starting to talk about Morocco eventually. It's just, sometimes God calls me in different directions. That's God for you. All right. Love you guys. Bye.